Jack,
Yeah.
no liquids near the tech. Isn't that your mantra? Oh, shit!
Sorry. The hit Netflix television anthology series Black Mirror is often seen as a criticism of technology. But what some may not realize is that it is much more a study of human behavior. In more recent seasons, they have made that much more clear. Some episodes completely dropping the technology aspect from its show. Season 7 has somewhat returned to its technological roots. But did it work, or is it a desperate plea for attention at the end of Black Mirror's life cycle? That's what we're discussing today, with a full ranking of Season 7 from Black Mirror. Why, hello! I'm Jack Brunót, and I talk all things art and entertainment, not just TV shows. But today, was Season 7 of Black Mirror bad? No. In fact, it was fantastic. This is some of the best Black Mirror that we have seen in years. It's honestly on the same level as like Season 3 or 4. I'm not getting paid to say that. I wish I was getting paid, but I'm not. It kind of feels like Charlie Brooker took the criticism of his last few seasons to heart and brought back that heavy theme of technology from the earlier seasons. Now, bringing back that singular theme is not going to fix the show's faults. So why was Season 7 so great? I mean, on top of the intriguing concepts that we see in each of these episodes, Season 7 was an emotional roller coaster. I was not expecting it to be this much of a tearjerker. Even the later episode, the sequel to USS Callister, had some emotional beats to it. There's also shockingly a lot of comedy in this season. Each episode is still tackling a serious premise, but there's breathers of comedy, there's levity. That's something that I feel like we didn't really see in the earlier Black Mirror seasons, and I think some of us will love it and others will hate it. I think the original Black Mirror is truly dead and gone, but the new Black Mirror here is still pretty spectacular. You're probably all wondering, is it better than Season 6? Yes, it absolutely is better than Season 6. I mean, after all, there is no Maisie Day. Season 7 did not give us a new worst episode in the series. And that brings us to today's ranking, because we are only going to be doing a ranking of Season 7. However, about a month ago, before the trailer for Season 7 even came out, I did a full ranking of the series. As we talk about the ranking of the episodes from Season 7, I'm also going to be telling you where each of these episodes would place in my original ranking in that video. If you are curious to watch that full video, I will link it here somewhere around my head. I've also been thinking of making a video where I rank the seasons, so if that is something you are interested in, leave a like and let me know in the comments. I don't really want to become a Black Mirror channel. If you're aware of my content, I cover a lot of different stuff within the art and entertainment field. Specifically, I also talk about books, video games, music, and movies, and of course, other TV shows. So if you have anything you would like to see me talk about, let me know about that in the comments as well. Hi, this is Future Jack. My laptop died in the middle of shooting, which completely deleted all of my audio. From this point until about halfway through the ranking, I mean, my laptop was plugged into the wall and it was fully charged, but you know, that doesn't matter, I guess. I'm gonna have to use my camera audio for that part of the video, and I'm gonna try my best to clean it up, but if it sounds a little weird, that's why. Sorry. Before we fully dive into this ranking, I want to give a huge thank you for 1,000 subscribers. It's not just a number to me, it's 1,000 people, so thank you so much. Because of hitting that milestone, I also now have super thanks and super stickers and super other stuff available. You can see that right above the description. It's basically just another way to support me if you want to go that extra mile, and it will also allow me to continue to make these videos for you. If you end up liking what you see here today, subscribing and clicking the bell goes a long way, but make sure to say hello in the comments if you are new here. I post 2 videos a month here and also other content on my other social medias, which you can find in the description. Since this is a new season, I'm going to try and keep this video as spoiler free as possible, but if you want to go in completely blind, which I do suggest, save this video and come back later, and please come back later. Last little disclaimer before the ranking, this is a subjective list. It's by no means objective. I'm also still processing the episodes as well, so I wasn't able to collect all of my thoughts. I've only watched each episode one time, so my opinions might change, and I'll probably continue to process what we watched. So if there's anything you feel like I missed, let me know in the comments. Okay, I've yapped for long enough, so let's actually get into the ranking. So there are 6 episodes in Season 7, and honestly,
5 of those 6 episodes can be rearranged depending on my mood. I ranked them to the best of my ability, how I feel right now. That being said, there is one episode that by no means did I hate, but it is by no means even as close as the other 5 episodes. And that episode is Plaything. A video game tester becomes emotionally attached to artificial creatures within the video game that he is testing. But these artificial creatures might be more alive than we think. And do we ever get an answer to that? Not really. That's up to your own interpretation, kind of. Firstly, shout out the eyebrows man, Will Pouter. He reprised his role from Bandersnatch, another Black Mirror episode. He's probably one of my favorite characters in like all of Black Mirror. So my biggest issue with this episode is that it was just kind of a snooze fest. I really liked the premise. However, I did get emotionally attached to the Throng, which are the artificial creatures. When that thing happens to them, I got really upset. I almost see this episode as a cosmic horror piece, which is one of my favorite horror genres. But the problem with cosmic horror is it's very difficult to pull off. You have to toe the fine line between explaining too much at the end or not explaining enough. And I feel like Plaything did not explain really at all at the end what happened. What were the goals of the Throng? This is a little bit of a spoiler, but what happens when they take over the world? Did they take over the world? They spent too much time explaining what the Throng are and not what they're even doing. I think the point of Plaything actually kind of coincides with the point of the new USS Callister sequel, which is asking the question of what is the difference between artificial life and natural life, if both life forms thinks they're alive. And even though the episode may not have hinted towards this aspect, I also can kind of tie this back to Men Against Fire as well. How easy it is for humans to dehumanize other humans and think they are superior to others. This entire idea stemming from what is a video game may seem a little ridiculous. However, look at a game like Minecraft.
Chicken jockey!
There have been some amazing things done in that game, including people creating full-on supercomputers just using the tools in the game. Don't ask me how they do that, because I have no clue. At the end of the day, humans are made of chemicals, while robots and AI are just ones and zeros. And if you look at the core elements of both of those things, they're actually quite similar. Okay, where are we placing Plaything in the overall Black Mirror episode ranking? So when I did my original ranking, there were 28 episodes. Now there are 34, and I am placing Plaything at 31, right above Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, and right below Demon 79. As I said, I don't hate this episode. I just think with such an interesting premise, they probably could have done better. It felt a little low budget to me, almost like they ran out of money for the season, but they needed one more episode. Okay, at number 5, and I feel like a lot of you are going to be upset with me for this ranking, but just hear me out before you get angry, please. I am putting the new sequel to USS Callister into infinity. If you watched my overall ranking of Black Mirror, you would know that I put the original episode at number 4, but I tried my best to put my biases aside, both good and bad biases. This is just a personal thing. This is no judgment to people who like sequels, but I am not the biggest fan of sequels. Whether it be a sequel to a movie or a sequel to an episode from an anthology series, I, most of the time, am always partial to the original. Do I think we needed a sequel to this episode? No. Am I happy that we got a sequel? Yes. Yes, I am. I still think this episode is really solid. As I said, when we got into the ranking, I could switch around the top 5 really depending on my mood. Just like in the original episode, I love the color palettes and the cinematography here. It's a huge contrast to Black Mirror. At least it was a huge contrast back in season 4. Not so much now, but it still does look really good. I love the pink gun that Cole had throughout the episode. And if you would allow me to nitpick a little bit, because at this point I am just gonna have to nitpick when it comes to ranking these episodes. My biggest issue with this episode is there is kind of a plot hole based on how video games or just gamers are in general. So this is gonna kind of get into spoiler territory, but I'm not gonna like literally ruin the episode for you. So, in the center of the universe for the Infinity game, there is this huge mass with a bunch of different metal spirals going around essentially what is the center of the universe that's creating and expanding the universe. And the problem is, if this is a multi-million-dollar game with millions and millions of players active 24/7, you would think that at least one player would discover the center of the universe. And this center of the universe, it's not just an interesting aspect in the game, it's literally creating the game, and if something happens to it, it'll completely destroy the servers. And as we can see in the episode, Cole and her crew have absolutely no issues getting there. So if they have no issues, you would assume that the common players don't have issues, which just doesn't really make sense to me. If you know gamers, coming from a gamer myself, you know that someone is going to discover this and get into it. Considering how resilient gamers can be at breaking the game or just getting out of the limits of the map, you would think that at least one person would discover it, get inside, and completely destroy the entire game. If you have a rebuttal, please let me know. Another major plot hole in the game is there are all these gamers playing. Where are all the slurs? Outside of those 2 points, very solid episode. I think there are multiple messages that this episode is trying to get across, besides it just being generally an entertaining episode. But I think the overall message that ties it all together is the desensitization to violence and lack of empathy, which does coincide with the point that the original episode was trying to make, how unchecked power will lead to corruption. Now, I do want to mention one more thing about this episode that is kind of a criticism of this entire season. There are a lot of Black Mirror references shoved into our face across all of the episodes. And the problem with these references is they don't really serve the plot in any way. In this episode alone, there are references to San Junipero, the Waldo moment, Demon 79, White Bear, and maybe more that I just missed on my first watch. It's cool when you do it once or twice, maybe in just like one episode, but this is a consistent issue that we see throughout the entire season. And you could say, well, all of Black Mirror takes place in the same universe, so there are, of course, going to be references. The problem is, from what I can tell, the references are not super consistent. I can make an entire video on that, but there are some pretty good YouTube videos out there trying to tie together what's going on throughout the Black Mirror universe. And I cannot imagine how difficult it must be to put that together after this season. There's also a reference to The Matrix in this episode, and that reference worked really well, specifically because it was important to the plot, and it also mirrored the 2 plots between this episode and The Matrix. If they were to reference the other Black Mirror episodes in this way, I would be much more receptive to that. But instead, they just keep shoving San Junipero down our throat. I would love to know how many times San Junipero specifically is referenced in this season. Maybe I'll rewatch it just to count it all up. I know I'm sounding very critical of this season, but as I said at the beginning of the video, I think season 7 is really solid. But that doesn't mean I don't have criticisms. Nothing is perfect. Okay, so where is this episode landing in the overall ranking? I was tempted to just say I'm gonna put it at number 4 alongside the original episode, but that felt like a cop-out. So I'm gonna put it lower than number 4, of course. Duh. I'm putting USS Callister into Infinity at number 17, which I know is a pretty big jump from Plaything, and that's because all of the episodes in the season are very good. I'm putting it right above Joan is Awful, and right below Black Museum. At number 4, we are putting Bête Noire. I just learned this word, so if I pronounce that wrong, feel free to chastise me in the comments. A Bête Noire is someone who is particularly disliked and should be avoided. Essentially, someone who is shunned. That is the perfect title for this episode. At this point in the ranking, I have very few criticisms. This is probably going to be my most replayed episode in this season. The amount of tension, it's just so juicy. Even though the cinematography doesn't seem like it, this is somewhat like a horror episode. The plot really keeps you guessing on what's going on up until the very end. Now, the immediate ending to the episode, and I'm talking like the last few seconds, I don't entirely know how I feel about it, but it's somewhat left up to interpretation as well. So I find it hard to knock the episode for that. And considering it's like the last few seconds, I'm not gonna hold it back for that. The only reason I put this episode lower than the others is is it did not emotionally hit me. It was very tense, and I loved that aspect, but it didn't exactly get me attached to the characters. Now, it didn't need to do that. Not every episode needs to be a tearjerker. I'm just nitpicking at this point. I have two main points that I think they were trying to discuss with this episode. Are you for real?
Whatever you believe becomes your reality, even if it's not true. Because even if it is a lie, if everyone believes it, it might as well be true. Coinciding with that, no matter how successful you are, childhood trauma will stay with you and haunt you for the rest of your life. I also think just the blanket idea of don't bully people or judge a book by its cover can be applied as well. The entire theme kind of reminds me of this phenomenal visual novel video game, Slay the Princess. I know that's kind of a niche, deep cut that a lot of Black Mirror fans probably don't know about, but it's so good. Go play it. Oh, I completely forgot to describe what's going on. An old high school rivalry resurfaces during a reunion in the workforce, unraveling deeper psychological truths and distorted perceptions. I am placing Bête Noire at number 15, right above Black Museum and right below White Bear. Next at number 3, I am putting Hotel Reverie. When a modern day actress enters a old-timey movie to film a reboot, to act in the reboot. The love story blurs the lines between the digital world and reality. Love this episode, but I do want to bring up another criticism that I have of the entire season. It seems like this season is taking place in our reality, not the Black Mirror universe. This is made obvious when bringing up famous actors like Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling, while at the same time in this specific episode, one of the main actors is Awkwafina. Yet she's not playing Awkwafina, no. She's playing a character. So you mean to tell me this is set in the real world, but we're not supposed to think that Awkwafina is Awkwafina. We all know Awkwafina, not the water, the woman, the rapper / actor. It's not a big deal, but I really loved the whole idea of them being in their own like Black Mirror universe, which is why all of the Black Mirror references that don't really make sense together kind of bothered me throughout the season too. All this being said, this episode is phenomenal. I'm gonna get hate for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think this is a better version of San Junipero. I mean, there's even a San Junipero reference in this episode. I mean, there is a San Junipero reference in every episode in this season, but I digress. This is a tragic love story with a high emphasis on technology, specifically a love story between a real woman and an AI construct. Just another Black Mirror example of something that is probably gonna happen in the real world. I mean, we're already kind of seeing stuff like this happen, just not to this level. I think the point of this episode is a criticism of the tabloids obsessing over fictional romances, specifically how Dorothy, the original actress in the old film, was treated by the public. Hotel Reverie is one of many episodes that, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, made me cry. If you didn't cry to at least one of these episodes, you are made of stone. In my overall ranking, I am placing Hotel Reverie at number 13, right above White Bear and right below The Entire History of You. At number 2, we have another love story, kinda, with Common People. This is the first episode in the season, and it really sets the tone for the rest. Another tearjerker episode. However, I think this is the most Black Mirror episode in the season, specifically with how it ends, leaning more towards existential dread as opposed to bittersweet sadness. Common People is essentially a more complicated, different version of Be Right Back, which is one of my favorite episodes in the series. That's not a criticism though, because it's not a carbon copy. To explain the plot, I am gonna have to spoil it a little bit, but it is a minor spoiler that happens at the very beginning of the episode. We have a husband who is a welder and a wife who is a teacher. The wife eventually ends up in the hospital due to some sort of medical condition. It is never made clear, but it seems like it is some sort of brain tumor. It ends up putting her in a coma that she will likely never wake up from. But this new experimental technology is suggested to allow her to wake up. Basically, this new technology can copy her brain, put it onto a server, and then put that copy back into her brain, which will wake her up. This is great, right? It takes someone who is in a coma and it allows them to wake up, but it also means means that the owner of this technology, which happens to be a greedy corporation, now owns her brain and dictates how it is able to be used in real time. You can imagine that's a bad idea, but is it worth it to be able to bring back a loved one? As we see in the episode, it doesn't really seem like it. This episode is a criticism of subscriptions, ads, and price gouging, which is kind of ironic considering this episode is a Netflix exclusive. This episode very bluntly shows how if you raise prices, you have to work more to be able to afford what you're paying for, which will in turn give you less time to enjoy what you are paying for, forcing people to put themselves in undesirable situations, all in order to make money to live. Charlie Brooker got me wanting to punch this woman in the face. This episode came out at the perfect time considering what Spotify is trying to do. Scratch that. Not trying to do, is doing. If you're not aware of that, Spotify is basically doing exactly what the corporation in this episode does. However, it's not on the same level of, I guess, crime. They're not stealing people's bodies, they're just price gouging. The episode title, Common People, is another perfect choice. I believe they called it this because this is the burden that all of the common people have to deal with now in our late stage capitalist society. I think this is the best episode in this season, maybe in the entire series, to showcase how we should not trust corporations or the promises of advanced technology. This right here is what I want from Black Mirror. But it's still not number one, and we will get to that in a moment, because where is Common People going in my overall Black Mirror ranking? I am putting it at number 7, right above Hated in the Nation, and right below its twin, Be Right Back. That leaves one more episode to talk about. My number 1 episode of season 7 is Eulogy. A new funeral technology allows a man to literally enter old photographs to relive the memories he had with his former lover decades ago after she has passed away. Now, when I say this season was a tearjerker, this episode is what I'm talking about. Oh my God. The ending, I mean, frankly, the entire episode, but especially the ending. So heartbreaking, very relatable as well. I didn't experience this exact story, but I think we can all relate to the loss of love from a personal mistake or the other person's personal mistake. Firstly, I think this might be the only Black Mirror episode in which the technology isn't seen as bad. I actually think this technology would be very beneficial to have in the real world. Yes, it could also be very damaging, as we see in this episode, but it's not damaging because of the episode, it's more damaging because you're reliving your past. But it could allow people to be more introspective about their past faults, which is exactly what we see here. I think the point of the episode is to highlight the importance of introspection, understanding, and forgiveness. If you continue to lie to yourself, try to forget all of your memories, you won't grow as a person or learn from your mistakes, which will prevent you from truly moving on and only build up resentment and bitterness. And I think when going through a heartbreak, you have to keep in mind that there are two sides to every story. What happened between our protagonist and the woman he was seeing, I wouldn't blame strictly on either one of them. They both made mistakes, and unfortunately, both paid the price for them. I do want to mention a few little nitpicks, and I'm talking nitpicks because these are not really a big deal at all. Firstly, when our protagonist enters the photos, everyone has to stay still, but it's clear that some people are a little bit better at staying still than others. You can see some people moving around, but I can't really blame them staying still for that long, and I assume a lot of them holding their breath almost is not exactly easy, especially when there's a bunch of cameras on you at all times. Also, we got a COVID mention in this episode, which just coincides with the criticism I had of this entire season taking place in the real world and not the Black Mirror universe. I don't have a problem talking about COVID. It's just, this isn't supposed to be the real world. It's supposed to be a parallel. To end on a positive note, I really loved that we got to see Carol's face at the end. Throughout the entire episode, we do not get to see Carol's face because Philip destroyed her face in every photograph that he had. I won't spoil how, but finally at the ending, we get to see what she looked like when they were together. I'ma be for real, that shit made me cry. You just gotta be there. I'm assuming if you made it this far into the video, you watched the season, so you get it. In the overall ranking, I am putting Eulogy at a whopping number 4, right above the original USS Callister and right below 15 Million Merits. That concludes my ranking of season 7 of Black Mirror. But wait, the episode's not over. I want to do one more thing. I have been avoiding the general opinions on season 7 online, specifically because I didn't want it to taint taint my overall ranking for this video, but we are all gonna go together and take a look at the ratings for this season. Do you mind? So there's this website, tvcharts.co. I'm not affiliated with them. This is not a sponsorship, but they compile all of the major reviews for TV shows, and they put them into a ranking out of 100 for every single episode of, well, every single show that exists. So I have my laptop right here, and we are going to go and check that out. Okay, let's see. And they're not out yet. Never mind, cut this entire segment. I'm not gonna give up. I'm just gonna look up Black Mirror Season 7 rankings just to see how close I am to everyone else. Okay, I'm on my phone now, so I'm not gonna show it, but it looks like Wired put out a couple of different lists from people. I don't know how accurate this is to how the community feels, but it looks like people do not like Hotel Reverie. Interesting. If you feel the same way, let me know in the comments. I really liked it. It seems to be pretty low on a lot of these. Eulogy is number 1 for a lot of people. Common people are it's also pretty high. Noir also kind of low. However, some of the rankings misspelled it, so I don't know how accurate that is. Oh, here's one that puts Plaything at number 1. Why do they have a reasoning? They think USS Callister was the weakest, but they don't give a reason for Plaything. This is just a great example of how this is a subjective ranking. I think however you rearrange the ranking is valid. Even if you put Plaything at the top, I'm not going to be upset about that. I still enjoyed the episode, but for me, Eulogy is so much better. That is it. That is my Black Mirror Season 7 ranking. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching the video in its entirety. I post 2 videos a month, so if you liked this one, you might like some of the others. And if you want to see some of the others, subscribing and clicking the bell is the way to do that. Or you can just click on my channel. That's the boring way to do it. But please remember, don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do with your life. Stay safe out there. Boo-bye.